So you see the blue light, World Autism Day this week, and we want to raise an awareness for so many people who struggle with various spectrum disorders. I thank you, Stephen, for reminding me and for, in your own life, highlighting for us, along with your beautiful child, that nothing is too great when there's love and patience and effort made to raise a child and to see that which is greatest in them and find a way they can exist in the world in that way. And also we know that children who suffer from spectrum disorders have it much worse now because everything in their lives is out of kilter. They need order and structure, and there's nothing ordered and structured right now. And we hope for them too that their parents and their families can abide the circumstance and find the strength to raise them. So in their honor, we have our little blue light shining for you today. So I have a number of things. I have to go get some more stuff. I got stuff I got to get. Oh yeah. So typically what I do is I start off by talking about things, important things that we need to talk about, which I'll do today, and then a sermon about what's happening in our time, thoughts for the week, and the moment we're in. A few moments ago, you heard that we said a Mishaberach for those who are sick, the blessing, and some specific people. We have a lot to pray for, and if anyone knows anyone who needs our help and prayers, please let us know. I want to have a special shout out to our friends Henry and Velma, and wish you refuah shalema, speedy recovery, continued health, Velma, and a lot of love in your family. I want to answer a question. I mentioned in this week's announcement that if you are firstborn and you'd like to participate in a siyum, the celebration at the end of learning a tractate of Talmud, and that way your obligation to fast on Erev Pesach, on the day before Pesach, the day of Pesach Eve, is lifted. So I mentioned that it would be in conjunction with Adath Israel and Beth Tikva. Please go to their website and find that information there. There is a conversation to be had about online minyan. I appreciate Ira and Merle sending me in your question. And there's a lot of conversation happening even amongst Orthodox communities about how to deal with minyan over Zoom, for example, and so on. There is more information for that available. If you're interested in looking it up, I believe there was a Jerusalem Post article recently, but I will try to find that and either post it or make a link to it available to you. Sherry and Jeffrey, you wrote to me and you said something interesting in your email, and it was this. It was, you canceled your big family Seder, which is 60 to 70 people, unhappy face. You assume my version is a bit longer and more traditional than your version, but you would tune in nonetheless. Let me just cautionary advice here. My Seder will not be more traditional than anyone's Seder, guaranteed. And it probably won't be that long either. It is not something you've never seen before. It's exactly what you'd expect from me, but it ain't traditional. I hope it's meaningful, and it's going to be something really special and inclusive and educational. Not that long and not traditional. And which is actually good, because nothing about this year is actually traditional other than maybe the form, but not the function, certainly not. A special welcome back to our friend Saul, who drove back from Florida. It took him only 6 weeks to get back home because he had to stop and say hello to everybody along the way. but we're very happy that you're back and you're taking care of your good health and staying home. That's really good. I'm really happy about that. So welcome back, Saul. And some beautiful story happened this week. A lot of beautiful things happened, but we had a family who've been joining us for quite a few high holidays, and they're very special people to me and to many in the community. And this week, they decided to write to us and say, we're joining the shul. And I know we spoke last week about this is the time to join. This is the time to prove not only solidarity, but optimism and hope. And good for you. I look forward to speaking to you this coming week to welcome you formally to the shul. But thank you for choosing this week to join the shul. You have no idea how uplifting it was for us to get that email. And not just for me, but my staff. That really, really lifted their spirits. Really. It was such a beautiful thing. So I'm not saying anyone has to run out and join, but if you are thinking about it, it's never too early, especially not now. If you're able to make it happen, we really, really want to make sure that we carry on normally in the hopes that we do end up back to so-called normal. So thank you for that. And my dear friend Holden, you saw an image of Holden if you're watching the Who's Attending Shul videos. Holden is a relatively young man. He's in his mid-teens. He's super smart, super aware. Probably could be the rabbi if I went down. And knows everything pretty much, but he asked me a question. And his question is, if a person needs to say Kaddish without 10, how can that person say Kaddish without a minyan? How do you do it? And that's kind of what Ira was asking me, is what are the nuances and laws of using Zoom, etc. So I've been asked this question. We had a Zoom call yesterday with all my Hartman colleagues, and one of my colleagues is a woman rabbi in an Orthodox synagogue in New York, and she said that they have a ruling from a rabbi, an Orthodox rabbi, Rabbi Melamed actually, Baruch Zalman Melamed, upon which they base the idea that it's intentionality and it's people using an electronic platform, despite the fact that you're not physically in proximation, you are in real time in bilateral conversation. You can speak, you can hear. Because you can be engaged, it's considered as if you're together. I don't know. I actually wrote back and I said, for me, it doesn't matter. I don't think the law of having 10 people in a room to say Kaddish is so strict that if you can't have people in the room, you can't say Kaddish. I don't think you should say Kaddish on your own. I don't think you should just pull over in your car and say it. I think it's meant to be said with a group. But if it's meant to be said with a group, the group can be beyond the four walls. And I'm not saying all the time. I'm saying under severe necessity. There has never been a time like this where they could not get out of their homes to say Kaddish, while at the same time the technology is available to make you virtually together. It's never happened before. So this is unique. And I don't think traditional halachic Judaism really anticipated this moment in which you could not attend, but you could participate. So in my philosophy, if you can attend, you attend. If you can't, you can participate. And I mean, if you think about it, you've often heard, and many of you have known, and God forbid if you've suffered a loss, you probably got many calls from some organization or another saying to you, hey, could we say Kaddish on your behalf? You give us a few $100 and we perpetually say Kaddish for you. Well, if we can designate someone else to fulfill our responsibility, it sort of sounds like the responsibility is not necessarily impossible to modify. And certainly, and I don't want to get into it too deeply, but certainly saying Kaddish is a tradition. It's not a law. We've made it law. We've made it something that's really important to us because it brings us together. But it's not, at the end of the day, it's not like eating kosher. It's not like not eating chametz on Pesach. Those are the big ones. This is way down there. It's really important. But when we're under a difficult time, you certainly can use a platform, an electronic platform, which gives you togetherness and connectedness, even if you can't be physically in the same space. So my philosophy on it is, do what you have to do, be connected. That's the fundamental value of Mourner's Kaddish anyhow, is that you're in the presence of others. And this way, you can be reached out to and healed, and you can find healing. Good question, Holden. Ira, thank you. Okay. I do want to thank Marty and Shirley Glick for making this possible. Marty, we've been in touch a lot, and I'm delighted that we're going to be live streaming the Seder. And Jonathan, your son, Jonathan Glick, thank you. You're going to be a great startup. You're going to be fantastic at what you do, and thank you for helping produce the live stream Seder. And thank you for everything you do, Marty. Really appreciate it. I want to thank the volunteers in our shul. Non-stop, we're getting emails, people offering to volunteer. I don't know if we have something for everybody, but be patient with us. We don't know where this is going to go. And we may need help on many different fronts. So please continue to share your names with us. Let us know that you're available. It's a long and short list. There's a lot of people, and there's not enough sometimes, but we'll keep in touch. One of our members, Lori Kirsch, Zuloff. Lori is, you might know there are two Kirsches in our shul, so you always have to know which Kirsch you're talking about. But this is the other Kirsch, the one that sits on this side, not on that side. And she offered to create and produce and deliver Seder plates with all the 6 different items that need to go on a Seder plate to anyone who needs. And lo and behold, moments after we announced it, people started saying, I need one. Well, I'm going to have one of hers at my Seder too. And we are so incredibly grateful to her and her company, Pillar Tapes, and her staff who are willing to help out on this. It's a beautiful thing. So to you and your family, blessings from all of us for just reaching out and making this possible. What a wonderful, incredible mitzvah to be able to do for so many people who obviously we're going to do without. And good for you for giving them a taste of real Passover. It's beautiful. I know that through the Living Jewishly, the Mana Project is supporting this. We're sponsoring. Beth Torah has made its efforts and sponsorship available as well, and we're really grateful that we're all coming together in a time of need. So thank you. It goes without saying that our executive and our board and our staff just constantly have been supportive and working incredibly hard. I mentioned in my report that there was a conversation with the board. As you expected, this shul has incredible people in charge of it who really get what's going on and have been nothing short of supportive and providing excellent advice and guidance, and hopefully it helps us emerge out of the end of this in good enough shape to carry on when the day comes that we can. The Passover Bulletin, which I have a copy of, I'll show you after, is just about ready and will be out in your inbox shortly. It's beautiful, and thank you. I appreciate every one of you who made a donation. I appreciate every one of you who called me and said, I want to help. I appreciate every one of you who said, my wife and I are talking about charitable opportunities at the shul. I don't know your personal circumstance, and some of you may want to share it with me as we get closer to renewal. You might not be in a position to do that. We'll talk about it. No problem, no worries. But those of you who are of good means, those of you for whom the economic downturn is not scaring you, or it worries you, but you're fine, you can make a difference. And this is not making a difference as in bricks and mortar. We're not buying books or cleaning products with your money. This money would go specifically to helping members who live with the anxiety that when the day comes to renew their membership, they'll be forced to either come on bended knee or make a different choice. And we're hoping to build that fund so we can allay all the fears of people who are in our shul. God bless our community. I know we can do it, and I know that I intend to make it happen. So we really, really hope that you continue to support us the way you have. And to those of you who have, I'll be sending you a note to thank you personally. I have really interesting news for you about the Passover Seder live stream. So as you know, the live stream will be it's basically a joint project with me in the middle, with Beth Torah Congregation for all our members and all our friends, and Living Jewishly for all the people who are not affiliated with us. And we have extended reach that way. And it will be streamed in different places, but I'm very pleased to announce, and you're hearing it now for the first time, it will be advertised shortly. We've been invited to collaborate and partner with YouTube. So YouTube will be live streaming our Seder, and over the next few days, it will happen very quickly. We'll be featured in social media, and we'll be the spokesperson for the community engagement around Passover, which is incredibly exciting. But being featured on YouTube is obviously a big deal for all of us. So let your family and friends know if they want to sign up, register. There's no cost, obviously, and it's a beautiful thing. And at least share it with people that you think might be shut in. I've heard from so many people, what am I going to do with my mother? I can't go there. I can't do anything. I'll get her up and running on live stream, and at least she'll be connected. And it's a beautiful thing. Again, it's not going to be 100% traditional. You're certainly not going to have hours of me davening away, every single word. But it will also give you an opportunity to engage your own family. You don't have to listen to me for, like right now, like for hours on end. You can just listen and go back to yourselves, then come back and continue and make it a true engagement. So, big news. YouTube collaboration, that's not nothing. It's really important to us to be able to get the message out. I was fortunate enough to speak to colleagues across North America and the territories of the United States, and we do believe that our live stream will be picked up in far-flung places who they don't have the resources to do this, mostly on the eastern seaboard of the United States and so on. So hopefully we're going to be doing great things for people. I promised to mention what's happening with Yizkor. So here's the thing. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but the days of Pesach, the first day, the second day, the seventh day of Pesach, there will be not a live stream, but a streamed service for the Chagim. I will undertake to produce that, and you will be able to follow along. For those of you who would go to shul, you'll be able to join in with the morning service, with Hallel, with Torah reading, and so on. But Yizkor Day, we will have a live stream, just like today, just like this. It's a little bit different because it's Chag, it's festival, same time, 8:45, with one really important difference. You can't come to shul to memorialize your loved one. We will say the Mourner's Kaddish. We will say the El Malei Rachamim. Here's what I want you to do. I know you can do it because you've done it. Let us each go to your files, go to your electronic files, go wherever you have to go, get pictures of your loved ones and send them in. And they will be with us here on Yizkor Day. And again, we will share them with the community. Let's make this beautiful. Let's bring it doesn't matter how many you send us, we'll put them all up. Doesn't matter. You'll see. It will work. Yizkor Day, loved ones photo, black and white, color, people you miss, people you love, people who you've never had a chance to really share because they were killed in the Holocaust, or you have the last little remaining tidbit of somebody. Send it in. Communications@Torah.ca will begin advertising it. It would be extraordinary to be able to have the memorial service with the faces of those that you are memorializing. A really, really beautiful idea, and let's do it together. And now that ends the information things, and now I'm going to get some water and Schuldichts. Oh, excuse me. Hi, Ma. Yep. Everything's good. Yeah, I cleaned the whole shul for chametz. Every inch of this place. Yeah. Even all the members. I cleaned it's all out. Everyone's gone. Nothing. Nope. Yeah. Okay. So, Ma, here's the question for you. If you're home, and you're home nonstop for Pesach, No. Ma, matzo balls are hard. Yeah, when you make them with shmura matzah, when you make them with whole wheat matzah, they get hard. It is forbidden to have hard matzo balls. Matzo balls have to be soft and fluffy. I know if I ask my members, they're going to tell me soft and fluffy. Ma, it doesn't matter what the rabbis say. It doesn't matter. That was then, this is now, everything's new. Okay, Ma, I love you, but I got to go because people are waiting. Anyhow, do not use whole wheat shmura matzah flour, please. Light and fluffy. You got to live with him for like months on end. Don't make him unhappy. Give him fluffy. Okay, I love you. Good Shabbos. No, I'm not eating too much. Bye. Oy. Okay. My mother. She'd never use a phone in Shabbat. It's just a joke. But let's talk about what's happening in the world and in our world and share some, I think, very appropriate and important conversations. There's a famous story, I believe it emanates from Chelm, of a man named Zalman. And whenever you have a man named Zalman, you know something is up. Zalman is just that kind of guy. And Zalman decides that his fortune at home is no good. Things are just not working out, not making a living. He's got a bunch of kids. His wife is really struggling, and he can't make it. He says to his wife, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to the next town. I'll see if I can get a start there. I'll make some money. I'll either send for you or you'll come join me there when I figure it out. And he begins his journey, and he walks down a dusty road, and he follows a long, long road to get to the main road. And just before he gets to the main road, he's exhausted. It's a hot day. He sees a beautiful tree, takes off his shoes, lies down, and he's about to take a nap, and he realizes, oi, I better point my shoes in the right direction, or I won't remember which way I'm going. So he turns his shoes, facing towards the road, he goes to sleep. Well, happens to be another traveler comes along, sees this man sleeping, sees a nice pair of shoes, tries them on, figures maybe, no, but they don't fit. Takes them off, puts them back, and carries on. Zalman, oblivious, wakes up a few hours later, refreshed, goes to put his shoes on. He goes, I remember which direction they're pointing. Look at that. Gets back in his shoes and he walks. And he walks and he goes, that's odd. I thought the main road, okay, but maybe I'm, and he walks and goes, I'm coming into a new town. Looks exactly like my town. Who knows? He walks, he goes, I can't believe it. Look, there's Main Street. I have a Main Street in my town, and there's the Goldberg store. I have a Goldberg store in my town, and I live on 25 Petrushka. There's a Petrushka Street, and there he walks up 25 Petrushka Street. It looks exactly like my house. This is unbelievable. A town that everything looks exactly like my town. And he knocks on the door on Petrushka Street, and a woman answers, and he says, hello. She says, Solomon, what are you doing here? And he says, I don't know you. You look like my wife, but I don't know you. I'm in a different town. You're thinking of someone else. She says, was tust bist du mashige? Are you crazy, Zalman? You're back home. Why didn't you go to the other town like you said you would? He said, no, I'm not back home. I followed my shoes. Whatever this is, it's something, it might look like my home, and you might think I'm your husband, and maybe you think those are my children, but this is not my town. My town is down there. So this is like an Asimov type story where you arrive in a world that looks exactly like the one you left, and everything looks exactly the same, but it's not. And everything about our lives now reminds me of we wake up one morning and we think we know exactly where we are, and everything looks the same, but it's entirely different. Your friends look the same, but you can't hug them. Your stores look the same, but you can't even go in. You can't go to work. You can't do anything that is normal. It looks exactly the same, but nothing is the same. And it's incredibly disconcerting. It's incredibly disconcerting to be afraid when somebody taps you on the shoulder on the street that maybe it's not your family. Or that maybe you got too close. Or if you have to... This morning, my greatest fear was that I'd be in this little confined space called an elevator and someone else would get on. I actually had to say, do you mind taking the next elevator? And they were kind about it. But can you imagine? Can you imagine being afraid that someone's going to enter your space like that? Nothing is the same. And yet we're living in Zalman's world in which we imagine it looks the same, but it's not the same. I don't know the impact deep down. I know I've been very busy and working incredibly hard. Maybe that's what allows us to sink in a little more slowly, but there are moments in which it's incredibly overwhelming. And, being out of my home to be here, it suddenly feels really odd to be away, to not have your family right next to you the whole time, or the comings and goings and the fighting and the loving and all the normal things that go on in family life. Starting to feel strange, which is a good thing, but it's also a hard thing. And as soon as we adjust to one new normal, we're getting to another. We've just been told that there might be another new normal coming, and we don't know where it's going to go. And I feel very much like a man who pointed his shoes in the wrong way and ended up exactly where he started, but believes and knows that nothing is the same. And I want to tell you about not knowing whether it's the same or not. And this is one of the great challenges of the moment, is that this COVID-19 virus has a 14-day incubation period. And people have said to me, smart people, who clearly don't get it, have said to me, I'm fine. Look at me. I say, look at you what? I'm fine. I say, well, in 14 days, you'll tell me that you're fine. You can't tell me you're fine. You don't know if you're fine. But I am fine. You don't know if you're fine. You don't know. That's why you need to be isolated. You need to separate yourself. You need to stay home, because if you do have it, A, you might never know, because you might just have a sniffle. B, if you do have it, you'll find out when it hits. And because you don't think you're sick does not mean you can go out in public and tell other people you're fine and put them at risk. And this weekend is the greatest threat, because this thing kind of started, and the incubation period is just starting to end at this point, and it is possible that we will see a massive number of people who think they're fine suddenly, because it happens very quickly, not fine. Believe me, every wheeze I get, every cough, every time I have a little trouble breathing, I'm already planning that ventilator. I don't want to think about it. I want to stay healthy, but I don't know. I certainly don't know enough to offer myself to other people and say, I'm fine, I feel great. Doesn't mean anything. So this weekend, and this week with Pesach coming, is a very, very dangerous time. And I want to talk, as I do, about some traditional sources around the idea of plague and pandemic. In Parshat Ki Tisa, which is in the book of Exodus, the beginning of the Parsha says, when you count Ki Tisa at Rosh B'nai Yisrael, when you count the numbers of the children of Israel, V'natnu ish kofer nafsho, and each person gives a coin, a half shekel coin. It kind of indicates an exchange for their soul, which really means by way of being counted, you put a coin in a box. And then they count the coins, and they use the coins for the upkeep of the temple and to support the Levitical duties. And it says, "V'lo yeh bahem negef bifkodotam," and there will not be amongst them a pandemic when we count them. So, of course, when you read these things, theologically we would read it, well, if you don't want to be counted by not giving your money, then you lose your herd immunity, your spiritual immunity, and then you die. Or if you're not a good community and you're not charitable, or you don't participate, then you lose your right to exist and God will kill you, or you'll be suffering, whatever the case is. But that's not the interpretation we would apply today. What we'd be saying is, how smart is that? Instead of counting people by shaking their hand, or by touching their fingers and getting a fingerprint, or by moving them from place to place, or by speaking to them directly, they simply go and they drop a coin remotely into a box. And there won't be a plague amongst them when you count them, because whoever is sick is not getting other people sick. Because when you bring a lot of people together and count them as part of your census, or you have individuals that go from house to house to house to house and speak to everybody, they could be the transmission. They could be patient zero and go from every home and infect everybody. So instead of doing that, you just have a remote coin drop, and that's how we know how many people there are. Everybody's responsible to do it, and then they count the census remotely. I'm not suggesting that the wisdom of the Torah predicted the pandemic, but I am saying it's not a bad idea to not have that kind of connection, and the fact that it connects it to not having a pandemic stands out, especially in our time. And then there's a story in the book of Chronicles 1, which is Divrei Hayamim, the stories of the time of the kings of Israel, primarily King David and Solomon and that whole era. And it goes something like this. I just want to share it with you because it is so astonishingly powerful. It's just a bit of learning, but I think it's going to strike you the way it did me. And this is Chronicles 21. Chronicles 1, book 1 of Chronicles, verse 21. And Satan arose against Israel and incited David to number Israel, to count Israel. David said to Joab and to the commanders of the army, "Go and count Israel from Beersheba to Dan, from the south to the north, and bring me information as to their number." And Joab answered, "May the Lord increase his people 100-fold, my Lord King. Are they not all subjects of my Lord? Why does God require this? Or why do you need this? Why should this be the cause of guilt for Israel?" There's something about counting that brings ayin hara, the evil eye. When you count and you number, it opens itself up for something evil. However, the king's command to Joab remained firm, and Joab sent out and traversed all Israel. He then came to Jerusalem. And Joab reported to David the number of the people that had been recorded. All Israel comprised 1,100,000 ready to draw the sword, while in Judah there were 470 men ready to draw the sword, about 1.5 million people, men between age 20 and 60. He did not record among them Levi or Benjamin because the king's command had become repugnant to Joab and he just refused to fulfill it. God was displeased about this matter of counting and he struck Israel. And David said to God, "I have sinned grievously. Please remit the guilt of your servant, for I have acted foolishly." And God ordered Gad, who was David's seer, David's wise man, to say to him, "Go tell David, thus says the Lord." Okay, now I'm just reading to you. You've never heard this, possibly. It's astonishing. "I offer you 3 things. Choose one of them, and I will bring it upon you. I offer you your choice of either a 3-year famine or that you be swept away or destroyed 3 months before your enemies with the sword of your enemies overtaking you, or 3 days of the sword of God, which is a pandemic in the land, with the angel of God wreaking destruction throughout the territory of Israel. Now consider what reply I shall take back to God who sent me. Can you imagine? Option 1, famine. You starve. Option 2, you die. Your enemies get destroyed as well, but you die first. And option 3 is a pandemic. And David says to God, I'm in great distress. Let me fall into the hands of the Lord, for God's compassion is very great, and let me not fall into the hands of men. And there's the answer. The Lord sent a pestilence upon Israel, and 70,000 people died. God sends an angel to Jerusalem and was about to destroy it. And at that point, God renounces the destruction of Jerusalem and halts the angel's work. Enough, stay your hand, he said. Rav ata, heref yadecha. And David looks up and sees the angel standing between heaven and earth with a drawn sword on his hand directed against Jerusalem. And by the way, for those of you who follow the Haggadah, you'll remember these words. V'charbo shlufa biado nituya al Yerushalayim. The outstretched sword hanging over Jerusalem comes from this story. David acknowledges his guilt. And David has to hide because the people will kill him for his mistake that he made. And in the end, there's sacrifices and some resolution. Bet you never heard that story before. In the book of Chronicles, the pandemic, David had to make a choice, and he chose the hand of God, which was the pandemic. Now, I'm not, as I've said before, here to tell you that there's a theological story. There's no divine retribution in the plague, and if there is, I'm not going to talk about it. It's not me. You might have to find some other rabbi who's willing to talk that way. There's plenty of them, so don't worry about it. But I think it's shameful to do that. And that story with David and the plague, I have no real comment on it, just to listen to the idea of what happens when humanity is involved in the decision between life and death. It was David's fault. Whatever it is that triggers the pandemic, David's responsible for it. And I've been thinking a lot about what stands between the living and the dead. I'm reminded of the story in the book of Numbers, in which Moses, is dealing with a pandemic, an outbreak. For whatever reason, the people are stricken with a plague. And he goes and he takes fire and he's standing there, and it's hard to know what he's doing. Is he praying? Is he magic? I don't know. But the text says, Vayamod bein hametim ubein hachayim, and he stood between the living and the dead. And he put himself in the middle between the living and the dead. And the plague abated. And I'm thinking about who are the people in the middle between the living and the dead? Who are the people that we're relying on to keep us living? And who are the people that are making us dead? I'm sure you've all seen someone who you said, that person is not doing the right thing. Don't come home from your vacation and tell everyone you're okay. Stay home for 14 days. Don't breathe on me. Don't walk too close. Make room. Don't tell everyone you're fine and go visiting people. Don't be visiting hospitals. Don't go pay Shiva calls. Don't. So who is it that is keeping people alive? We'll talk about that. But who is it that is responsible for the dead? I'm very grateful, a member of our congregation who occupies an extraordinarily high position within this pandemic management in the health field. And I had a briefing this week. And one of the things he said to me was, China has not told the truth. And I read an article that I want to just share a little bit about, that the CIA has been talking about, that their intelligence cannot get full numbers. And they actually believe that China doesn't know their full numbers. Because within China, you think of it as China, it's a huge, gigantic, billions of people. There are segments the local government doesn't necessarily want to tell the provincial government, or the provincial government doesn't want to tell the state government what really went on, because there might be consequences. So nobody is telling anyone the truth. And because we don't know the truth, it's impossible for us to truly predict what happened, what will happen. It's a very hard thing, because part of those who are keeping us dead are the dishonest, or the fearful, or the selfish. Human nature is what stands between the living and the dead. And those who are not living up to their best expectations are keeping us dead. Authoritarianism is a killer. We're discovering to our chagrin that borders can be a killer. If borders in the world close and supplies are not shared, that's the dead. That means that the plans that we have to help us survive through this are destroyed. I believe that as Canadians and as an extraordinary country, we will figure it out. But it's a huge blow to know that the border to the south may be closed to desperately needed medical supply, committed medical supplies. We recognize that the United States is suffering terribly. Borders, those kind of closed controls, which, by the way, in World War II were entirely opened to avoid exactly this. I'm not saying that's how it should be now. I'm saying that maybe there needs to be a balance between what is already committed and the future. One of the things that could destroy life and death right now are patents. A machine that could save lives that belongs to a company that's under patent should belong to them, and they have the right to retain it, and they have the right to keep it even under this duress if they wish to. But no, there's a beautiful story that emerged about Medtronic, where the CEO decided to release the patent, and not just the patent, but the entire schematic, so anybody could manufacture their machine. He just gave it away so that ventilators can be produced by anyone who has the capacity. And it's going to save lives. And yes, this Yaron Yitzhari, who, if the story holds true, is a true hero. He's also a capitalist, and he said, it's fine. At the end of the day, they'll need us to service their machines, to train them. We'll still make money, but the idea that we would hold a patent that would hold people back from being saved, this is the time to step up. Let's not talk about Startup Nation. Let's talk about Give Up Nation, where they give out their technology and gifts to the world. When required, they step up. It's extraordinary. And the same goes for the entire manufacturing sector, who have retooled. I'm not a fan of Canada Goose. And Canada Goose, if you're listening, I'll tell you why I'm not a fan. Not because I don't like your stuff. I think it's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I'm generally not a brand guy anyhow. But to be honest, I don't need any more padding. And when I put a Canada Goose on, smacht mich azoi wie a snowman, verstehst? I look azoi. Not for me. So Canada Goose, nothing personal. But to your credit, your people, came back from furlough to make hospital gowns. That's extraordinary. And there are hundreds of stories. Small companies, big companies. I have a neighbor on my street, Jane, if you're listening, you know who you are. You're making masks, homemade masks for people. Good for you. It's about time you used your kids' flannel pajamas from the 40s. It's a great thing. But that's the beauty in this, is that what stands between life and death, the very things that could hurt us, selfishness, greed, they can also be the source of life. I'm deeply perturbed in two ways about a story I read, news media, it doesn't matter which one, about a man who during this crisis feels this is his moment to sue a ticket agency because the Justin Bieber concert has been delayed and he wants his money back. He doesn't want a voucher, he doesn't want to delay it, he wants it back. Now. Dude, you're going to get us all dead with that kind of greed and selfishness. And the other thing that I'm complaining about is the news, whoever that news media is, that feels that's a story worth reporting without any commentary whatsoever. Like, could you not have asked Mr. Smith while he was complaining about his tickets, do you not think this maybe is not the best time to complain about your tickets for Justin Bieber that you'll be able to see but not right away? Do you mind? News media, why don't you editorialize? I'm not talking to all news media. There's been unbelievable reporting. I'm talking to this specific story. Why don't you ask him the hard question and say, do you think it's appropriate? And then the shocking complaining I heard about people who were repatriated to Canada because Canada had to charter jets to bring them home from places that some of them should have never been in the first place because they knew the pandemic was out there. Maybe they didn't realize the full extent, but they left for their vacations while there were warnings, and then they demanded the government bring them home, and they complained about the price of the ticket on the plane. Not that they should have, they agree they should pay. It was just too much. If I had booked this flight myself, it would have cost me $1,200. And the government charged me $2,600. They're ripping me off. They're ripping you off. Taxpayer dollars went to charter a flight. What, you think it's cheaper now to charter jets? What, because they're all sitting around? There's no staff. There's no maintenance. There's nobody. The airlines are losing money. What, it's for free? And you're complaining? You're going to get us all killed, you know? When we stand between the living and the dead, you got to watch out for those who are going to get us dead. When I was part of the Orthodox world in my youth, we didn't count a group. If we want to know if there's a minion in the room, you never pointed your finger and did 1, 2, 3, 4. You never did that. Because by pointing and counting, you could bring a plague, just like the story of King David. So we actually use a phrase. You know how they say 20 seconds, you wash your hands, you got to find the right song and sing it for 20 seconds? We used to say this. Hoshia es amecha uvarech es nachlasecha ureim v'nasem ad. And if you didn't have olam, you didn't have a minion. So we didn't count from 1 to 10. No. You use that verse to count. And this is early on ingraining the idea that behavior or attitude or method can kill people. I don't necessarily believe that if you count 10 people, you're inviting Satan in to come and cause a plague, but certainly historically, that's how these things were understood, so I understand. But the idea that your behavior can kill is important. And we're going to find out this weekend, and over Passover, and over Easter, and Ramadan. And this is what the fear is that people, for the sake of maintaining the holiday or God's will or the need to express themselves in a traditional way, I'm defying the ban. People are still coming from out of town to have Pesach celebration. People are still traveling away from New York to Miami to sneak in and have Seders. And they've been banned explicitly everywhere. No guests allowed for Passover. I'm not doing a live stream because it's fun. I'm sure we'll enjoy it, but I'm doing it because no guests are allowed for Passover. So the only way to have a guest is through your computer. And this is the most high-risk weekend. And Canada could be between the living and the dead. And if we're the living, we're Canada. And if we're the dead, we'll look like Italy. And we could. And what will happen if you look like Italy is you won't be allowed out of your house. It will be like the first Seder night where the door stays closed. You can only come out one day or with a pass, or you can only go a certain distance, and otherwise you get fines. And if that's what we want, be part of the dead. And I know some of you who are listening don't quite agree with me. Well, maybe we get lucky. Maybe we flatten the curve. Maybe all the hard work that's been done. Maybe. The UJA published a guideline from something called Kol HaKovod, which means Kol HaKavod, which means all due respect, but they're using it, euphemistically, Kol HaKovod, which is the Toronto Jewish Community COVID Task Force. And they go through a whole bunch of things about Pesach. And they talk to the community at large about things you can and cannot do. And they talk about, if you do have a guest, you have to isolate and quarantine your home for 14 days. You can't go get a haircut. Don't go to those salons that are open in the basement. That's just as bad. Once you connect to someone foreign to you who has not been with you and quarantined or isolated with you, you are starting your 14 days all over again. Every time it starts over again. If you need to sell chametz, obviously you do it online. This year they've banned burning chametz, in which you'd go out to the street with family and friends and burn it. There's no going out in the street and having gatherings. Fast of the Firstborn, as we mentioned, is online. If anyone needs help shopping food, you let us know. We'll make sure it's done and dropped off safely. Don't bring help into your home. Don't do it. It doesn't work. You have to start that 14 days every time you have contact. There's a lot of stringencies normally associated with Pesach, as I mentioned earlier, that are not going to be applicable this year. I don't want to go through all of them, but being that it is Shabbat HaGadol, I will tell you a little bit about cleaning your house for Passover. It's actually very simple. You ready? Here it goes. Get rid of all the chametz. No bread, anything that has the 5 grains in it. 5 grains. Oats, rye, spelt, wheat, barley. This is going to be posted, so you can come back to this moment in the sermon and find that again. Oats, rye, spelt, barley, and wheat. If it's made with those ingredients, put it away. Lock it in a cupboard. Either give it away in your mind or sell it to me through the online, but lock it away. Oats, rye, spelt, barley, wheat. If it is not made with any of those 5 grains, it will never, ever, ever, ever be chametz, no matter what you do. Rice is fine, but pasta, which is made with wheat, put away. So, go through your home. Anything that is not chametz, don't worry about it. Clean your home, basic, just so there's no food. Don't worry about your sink. Don't worry about your stove. Don't worry about your fridge. Don't worry about any of it. That is all stringency, and I've talked about that for years. You want to change your dishes? Change your dishes. You don't want to change your dishes? Do what I've told you. Wash them hot in the dishwasher. Run them on a cycle with soap. There's nothing left. If there's any food on your plate, it's inedible. It's done. Wait 24 hours and you're fine. You need more help? Very simple. All dishes that are glassware never become unkosher. They never become kosher. They're nothing. Nothing permeates them. They're clean. They're blank. The only thing you have to worry about is your cooking utensils. Anything you're worried about, wash, soap, hot water, and if you want to go full bore, fill up your sink with a little bit of bleach and drop all those metal objects into it. That will destroy any remaining food, and that's it. Don't overdo it. Don't stress yourself. Doesn't matter. And if you make a mistake, it's fine too. It's too hard this year. Just don't eat bread. Don't eat anything with those 5 grains unless it is in the form of matzah or matzah meal or matzah food, kosher for Pesach. That's all. You're allowed to eat those 5 grains so long as they're not leavened, which means they don't get a chance to rise, which is why you can get matzah made out of those 5 grains. But it can't be puffed, can't be risen. Simply, don't eat chametz, clean your home simply, put your chametz away, and any dishes that you want to use that you worry might be non-kosher for Pesach, clean them well, the way you normally would, with heat, with soap, with oxidants like bleach. That's it. Simple. Okay? Done? House clean? Fine. Some of the most important epidemiologists and public health experts are part of this conversation. Obviously, in various communities, rabbis have a say. The rabbis of this community universally have all agreed to all these rules. No synagogue, no guests, no out-of-towners, no help, nothing. Do not open your door for someone who is not quarantined or isolated with you, and don't go anywhere. And let us know if you need help. Now, who stands between the living and the dead? There's some people out there who are awful about these things, who are taking risks with everybody's life. If you look what happened on the East Coast, it took one person going to a couple of events to put out a huge infection. One person at a Purim party. We're lucky. Our Purim party was the week prior to this whole thing broke. Other places, it took one person at a Purim party to infect so many people. It only takes one person acting badly. But to keep us alive, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are frontline. And I've spoken to people and I've said, what do you do? How do you live with it? How do you manage to go to the hospital, put on a shield, dress up, and not live in perpetual fear and anxiety? And they say, we do. Some don't, some do. And they are standing between the living and the dead. Literally. And for all of us who are not, you owe them. You owe them to be part of standing with the living, which means stay home. If you can't be part of the living, blood is on your hands. You have no idea, because you might not even have any symptoms, and you can kill people. One of our members, relatively young person, was stricken with COVID-19 in the hospital, sedated, ventilated. And God willing, progress. Slowly takes a long time, and it's slow. And I can't go visit, and the family can't go visit. And I've heard that the hospital is incredibly generous by FaceTiming. They have to get dressed up, go in, hold the phone up. And it's really hard for them, but they at least are being given that connection. Think of that incredible kindness of going way beyond by allowing the family to communicate. And I spoke to a family member who was distraught, as they would be. And it wasn't just the fear of what happens to their parent. It's also the helplessness and the loneliness. And I said to this young person, I said, I'll send you some prayers, which is what they wanted. And let's talk about what you can do to help. What you can do, you're an online person, go online and share a message. Tell people to be safe, to be healthy, to be careful. Do some good with your sorrow. Do some good with your pain. And this young person is standing between the living and the dead. And I spoke to this person's mother, and mom told me how incredibly powerful and how widely shared this post has been. A beautiful, beautiful post. One of hope, despite the fact that she is standing between the living and the dead, waiting for her husband to come home, which he will. Amen. And friends, there is no big ending to this conversation. It's an ongoing discussion. And I'll keep talking. As long as I can. Until it's over. And maybe I'll be redundant. Maybe I'll repeat myself. But it bears repeating that when you are standing between the living and the dead, you need to be with the living. You need to be one of the people that helps the living, not helps the dead. Stop doing the things that you think are fine that could be killing other people. Listen to what your doctors tell you. Listen to what your community leaders tell you. We're not made that way. But now's the moment that you have to choose to be either with the living or part of making the dead. And our prayer, God of our ancestors, let me be the one who through my hands and my actions and my deeds help the living. And heaven forbid that my behavior, my attitude, the garbage I share on the internet, the stupid posts I make on Facebook, the way that I share information where I have no way to verify whether it's true or not, and yet I claim expertise by posting it to all my friends, by saying, it's exaggerated, by pretending that because I don't feel anything, I couldn't possibly have anything, or by imagining that the statistics are going to protect me, or that somehow we've become all experts in disease management, or by hoarding, or by being greedy or selfish at this time. Dear God, please help me be with the living. And remind me that if I'm not, without knowing it, I may be responsible for the death of others. Please keep me and my family and my congregation and my friends and all the people I don't know, but I am responsible for now. And you are too. And the entire country and the leaders of our country to do the right thing, and leaders of all countries to get over their own power and do what's right for this world, that we may heal speedily in our day. Amen. Page 150. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kimalkeinu, ein Kimoshienu, Mich Eloheinu, Mich Adonenu, Mich Imalkeinu, Mich Moshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Imalkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru Avosenu, Lefanecha Eskitores Hasamim. Aleinu, you may want to rise, page 152, which will be followed by Mourner's Kaddish. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liyotzer bereshit, shelo asanu ki goyei aratzot, v'lo samanu kishmechot adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gohor aleinu ki chol amonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shehu noteh shamayim v'yoseh da'aretz, Moshav Yikoro b'shmayim imal, u'shchinatu zo b'gavei miromim, Hu Eloheinu Einon. Kakatu b'tortech Adonai yimloch le'lam v'hed, v'nehmar b'hoyo Adonai le'melech ha'kol ha'aretz, Bayomahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad. May be seated. Your site listings: Maurice Barnett, father and father-in-law of Laura and Harvey Berkeley; Sam Siegel, father and grandfather of Patricia and Nathaniel Epstein; Shirley Sheriff, mother and mother-in-law of Todd and Allison Sheriff; Benzian Osterman, cousin of Molly Rothman; Gerald Wasserman, father and father-in-law of Robert Wasserman and Jacqueline Schinfeld; Henry Kornblum, husband of Zelda Kornblum; father and father-in-law of Diane and Michael Yanofsky, Shirley Kornblum, and Elliot Wasserman; Toby Donsky, mother of Sophie Chapnick; Fagi Dankevi, aunt of Cheryl Amar, Risa Grossman, and Mitchell Grossman; Paul Devenier, husband of Mary Devenier; Bernard Dorfman, father and father-in-law of Shelley and Brian Feldman; Gord Epstein, brother of Don Epstein, uncle of Sherry Patak, Nathaniel Epstein, and Debbie Kusmariu; Jack Rothman, father and father-in-law of Stephen and Vicky Rothman; Laios Candel, grandfather of Jody Burks; Frank Ashkin, father and father-in-law of Jillian and Sheldon Glazer; Irving Cooper, father and father-in-law of Sheldon and Marlene Cooper; Wolf Strasberg, stepfather of Zeno Strasberg; Carol Ann Epstein, wife of Don Epstein, sister-in-law of Patricia Epstein, aunt of Nathaniel Epstein; Marilyn Grenville, mother of Mark Grenville; Rose Yermis, mother and mother-in-law of Helen and Mel Liederman; sister-in-law of Aaron and Helen Yermis; Sam and Helen Yermis; Leon and Frida Yermis. Special note to our dear friend Eddie, you know who you are. Hope for you too, and others. In solemn testimony to the unbroken faith, which links the generations one to another, that those who mourn, those who have yortzeit, those who have undertaken to maintain the memory of the victims of the Shoah alive, please rise now and join me in reciting the Mourner's Kaddish. It may be found on page 154 in our Siddur. Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei Rabbah, b'yama divarach Yerusei v'yamlich malchusei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beis Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach li'olam olomei omaya. Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yispa'ar v'yisramam v'yisnasei, v'yisadar v'yisalev v'yisalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchasa v'shirasa, tushbachasa v'nechamasa, da'miran bi'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'rmamav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. A year of peace, comfort, healing, and health to everyone, and let us say amen. If you're standing, you may be seated. A few short announcements before we conclude. Livestream continues Shabbat. As mentioned earlier, we'll be recording the holiday services for you, and they will not be live but be available on the website for the 3 days of Chag on Pesach. And Yizkor Day will be live, and we ask you and urge you, please send in your Yizkor photos. I have to tell you, I am extraordinarily overwhelmed by the thought of seeing my grandparents and great-grandparents. I've never done it before. Never have I come to Yizkor and seen my loved ones. It's just extraordinary to think about being able to do that. Q&A, of course, continues. Send in your questions, information, anything about Pesach. I'm happy to help you. Family photos for Shabbat, for sure, still most welcome. Thank you again to Martin and Shirley Glick for making this all possible and keeping our community close. Renee and Ralph Wolf and Deborah Harbour and Rex Harbour of London, UK, had the birth of a grandson, Gabriel Zach, born to Lara and Edmund Harbour, and brother to Nina, who are currently residing in London, UK. They may come to Canada, they may end up in Hollywood, but for right now, they're staying in London. Mazel tov to Jacqueline and Daniel Israelson, their grandparents Heidi and Howard Israelson, and Susan and Eddie Glick. Mazel tov to you on the birth of your daughter, your granddaughter, Lily Adele Israelson. We hope to see her in shul very soon, making noise. It would be wonderful to have all of you and her here. David Jarofsky, my condolences to you on the loss of your beautiful and extraordinary mother. Molly, and condolences to you and your entire family. May your healing come soon and speedily. I know how hard it's been to mourn alone. Small funeral, no shiva, I know. And stay strong, and may the good times come back for you with her extraordinary memories that you have to keep. You can sell your chametz online. If you need a Seder plate, please let us know. Join us for the Seder Live in partnership with YouTube. We are thrilled to be able to bring you an extraordinarily warm and meaningful production, not particularly traditional, but also not too far away from the intentionality, and the Haggadah will be available for you to download along with various supplements and other things. You can do it on Beth Torah's website. For those of you who have friends, you can send them either to Beth Torah or Living Jewishly, and we're more than happy and delighted to be able to share the Seder with you. Thank you again, Marty and Shirley Glick. There's various USY online programming. There's Jewish free loans that are available for people through the Jewish Community's Free Loan Society. You could look in our announcements for that. B'nai B'rith has an emergency food drive. There's help. If you need any help, please let us know. We're going to continue now with Adon Olam, followed by Kiddush, and conclusion of services. Adon Olam, page 162. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'es nasa b'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra v'acharei kichlos hakol livado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara hu echad v'yein sheni lahamshir lo lahachbira b'li reishis b'li tachlis v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra hu eli v'chayo ali v'tzurchev li b'yetzara v'hu nisi yumanos li minaskosi b'yom ekra biyado afkid ruchi v'yesi shan v'yaira v'yimruchi giviyasi Adonai li v'lo ira. When we conclude Kiddush, we're going to share with you once again all of those who came to shul today. We'll do it in a different order than you've seen it before, but we're going to post, and you're going to get a chance to see everyone who's here with me. So when you hear Savri, you'll know who is saying L'chaim. It feels so rich and vibrant now. If you'd like to, please rise for Kiddush. Zochor es yom HaShabbos lekadshoy sheish etzim yutav oirev zikmach techem shvi Shabbos alinoy lehecha lo yisasek malacha tevin chavitecha avdecha v'moscham techa v'gecha asher b'sharecha ki sheish es yomim asor alinoy es hashemayim v'tzoretz ziyom v'zkol asher b'mayirach b'yom hashvi al kein beirach alinoy Hashem Shabbos v'yikadesheyu savri. I hear you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. A week of health, a week of meaning. Let this week be the beginning of the exodus, redemption from the pandemic that hangs over all of us, the fear, the anxiety, the loneliness. We're here together. Friends, let's make this the most meaningful Passover ever. A good Shabbos. Stay safe. Stay home. If you need help, let us know. Sei gebenched. Have a wonderful week. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Good Shabbos, everyone. And thank you for being here, sending in your photos. I look forward to getting your Yizkor photos so we can make Yizkor something extraordinary. Good Shabbos.